There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you will unlock the Dead Bone Pulse bloodline limit. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of fairy tale. I hope you enjoy. Itachi gave the two dragons a cold, murderous smirk, looking at them like they were mere pathetic insects waiting to be stepped on and crushed beneath his boot. The dark aura flared around him violently, making both Levia and the rock dragon tremble a little of fear. Both the prideful dragons quickly realizing the feeling, shaking it off and growled. Don't think you can look at us with those eyes. Levi roared in anger over the look Itachi was giving them. Itachi's smirk just widened. Levia's threat didn't bother him, not one bit. Why should it? He was way stronger than them anyway. Time to show these simple-minded creatures who is superior. Itachi vanished at such high speed the dragons couldn't keep up. Itachi appeared between them, and before they could react, they were slammed in the face with black claws. I see, they respond to thought. If I think of a sword, Itachi uttered as his right black claw morphed into a black katana-like sword. And in an instant, he moved at super speed towards the rock dragon, and instantly appeared behind the dragon that was left with multiple cuts through his rock-solid body. Hey, you beasts make for excellent target practice. Itachi smirked maliciously as he swung his claws to the side, sending black saucer projectiles flying at the two dragons. Although with your size it's too easy not to miss. Levia had 4 black saucers stabbed into all 4 of his limbs, plus 1 on the torso. The rock dragon had all 5 saucers stabbed into its back, and he laid on the ground struggling to get back up. You, little, lowly, human. The rock dragon roared at Itachi, who appeared in front of him looking him straight in the eye. Itachi reached his right demonic claw up and gently tapped the side of the rock dragon's face. Poor thing. Itachi smiled and then delivered a powerful slap, sending the dragon flying to the side. Obviously I'm no ordinary human. Levia then blasted a breath attack at Itachi, who gave a quick glance at the wave as black flames erupted on it. Levia widened his eyes as the black flames of Amaterasu started to burn through his attack. Levia flew back to avoid the flames once they had burned through his attack. Pathetic. Itachi was right behind Levia, who widened his eyes in fear and quickly swung his claw to the side. Itachi caught the massive dragon claw with an expanded black claw. Neither of you 7 dragons are anything, compared to Acknowledgia. I can now see how he was able to slay all of you. Itachi used his free claw to deliver a powerful punch into Levia, who roared in pain. My sounds like something broke. I'm guessing a rib. Itachi threw yet another punch and Levia roared in pain once more. The sound of despair, how wonderful. Itachi let go of Levia's claw, morphed his black claw into a hammer and slammed the dragon into the ground. Let's see how much of a beating the two of you can take, before you die. Meanwhile, Natsu was latched onto Atlas Flame, who looked astonished that someone didn't burn up from touching his flaming body. Who the hell are you? I'm Natsu, and I'm gonna eat you. Natsu started devouring the flames from Atlas Flame's body. You're going to eat me? What nonsense. Atlas Flame moved his body around to shake Natsu off. When I say eat, I eat. And by the way, these flames are delicious. Even more delicious than Itachi's. Natsu proclaimed as Atlas Flame slammed his back against buildings, dragging it across to shake Natsu off. Get off me. Forget it. What the hell is Salamander doing? Gajeel questioned as they were all astonished that Natsu was trying to eat the dragon. Isn't it obvious? Natsu has the best chance of taking on that dragon. He is a fire dragon slayer after all. Altair replied as she just stood back with most of the others, enjoying the show. 2 dragons were already dead. Itachi destroyed all the mini dragons, and he was dealing with 2 more of the dragons. Wendy and Jalal were taking on Zirconis. The only that remained was Motherglare and Rogue from the future. Altair looked over at their timeline. Rogue, will he cause the same thing later in another timeline? Or will the fact that we have Itachi in our timeline prevent it? Altair thought for a moment, and quickly focused on other things. Dragon Slayers. Gajeel looked over at Altair. Same with Sting and Rogue. You could assist Natsu, or perhaps take on that dragon up there, or help little Wendy take on that one over there. Altair looked over at Wendy and Jalal fighting Zirconis. Wendy is taking on that one. Gee, guess I will go provide backup. Gee. Gajeel smirked and ran towards Zirconis in the distance. And what of you two? Altair looked at Sting and Rogue. What do you think, Rogue? Does Natsu need our help? Sting looked over at his comrade, who only gave him a smirk. Doesn't look like it, Rogue replied, and Sting nodded. Frosh. Lecter. They called their exceeds, who swapped in and grabbed them and flew them towards Motherglare where an unexpected surprise awaited them. Do you think it's okay to let that guy see that his future self is responsible for all this? Merity asked the woman she viewed as her mother figure. Doing this, Rogue can decide himself, will that be his future? Or not? Depending on the answer we will know how to deal with him. Altair replied and sent a crystal ball in the air following the twin dragon slayers, to keep an eye on them and see what happens. Couldn't we just kill Rogue and everything would change? Merity questioned. No, their timelines are different, killing current Rogue would not get rid of the future one. Altair looked down, bringing her hand up to her right eye as her Sharingan flared bright red. She felt the urge the urge to kill Rogue despite her words. She remembered back on what Itachi told her at the beach about these eyes. Madara was angry over the death of his younger brother, angry over the fact that the Uchiha clan just wanted to surrender like that. It is the curse of hatred in our clan. Like I said about the Sharingan being awoken by the feeling of love, that love turns to hate, especially since the Mangekyo requires one to lose a loved one to activate, which creates hate. Your father was one of the ones who fell into the circle of hatred, and couldn't escape it like many others from our clan. Altair was shaking, trembling, afraid of her inner hate, but then she thought back on what else Itachi said that day. Love leads to hate, an endless circle of hate where you think there is no way out. But there is, people who are dear to you, friends that can support you, they are what can help you escape from the circle of hatred. Altair started breathing heavily, while glaring at Rogue who flew off into the distance. You are free to walk your own path. Where you come from has nothing to say with where you are going in life, that decision belongs to you. Altair. Merity placed her hand on Altair's shoulder, causing her to gasp and look over at Merity. Relax, I'm here for you. She smiled cutely. Altair felt relaxed, and at ease from both Itachi's words, and from Merity. She then embraced her in a hug, much to the younger mage's surprise. Thank you, I'm counting on you. Merity beamed happily and gave a nod. This has gone on long enough, boy. Don't anger me. Atlas Flame roared, yet Natsu kept eating his flame-like body. Atlas Flame crashed through building after building, yet Natsu would not fall. A human eating my flames. Atlas Flame suddenly widened his eyes, as he remembered this feeling. This feeling? Don't tell me. No, it's impossible, but this feels so much like Igneel, the king of the fire dragons. Atlas Flame suddenly stopped moving. Boy, what is your connection to Igneel? This question alone made Natsu stop eating. Igneel. You know Igneel? Natsu questioned. He is my friend and the king of the fire dragons. Atlas Flame spoke with pride in his old friend. I see, Igneel is my dad. Natsu gave the dragon a friendly smirk in the revelation of the connection between Atlas Flame and Igneel. Atlas Flame widened his eyes in surprise at hearing this. As Sting and Rogue flew towards Motherglare, delivering a breath attack at the dragon, making it flinch. Let's get him. Sting smirked as they kept advancing towards the dragon, who strangely enough did not fight back. What's that? Rogue questioned as a silhouette of a figure came into view. Once it became clearer, the two dragon slayers and their exceeds widened their eyes in shock. That looks like Rogue, Frosh uttered as they looked at future Rogue, who looked back at his past. Future Rogue did not utter a single word, nor showed any sign of emotion. But his eyes were focused on his past self, and Frosh. Who the hell are you? Sting growled, denying that this was Rogue, his friend and teammate. Ah, it's been so long since I have heard your voice, Sting. It's been about 6 years now. Future Rogue grew a smirk as he entered White Shadow Dragon mode. I never got to thank you for this power. Thank you, my friend. Future Rogue blasted a wave of shadow and light towards Sting. Rogue pushed Sting out of the way from the attack and they were both out of harm's way. What is this? Rogue growled at his future self. I am you, 7 years in the future. Future Rogue replied with a vicious grin. There is no way, Rogue uttered in disbelief, and Sting looked in disbelief, same with their two exceeds. Rogue, that is Rogue, Frosh said, recognizing Rogue sent from anywhere. It can't be, Sting uttered. Then does this mean, all of this, is because of me? Rogue looked down at the destroyed city, fear, guilt, taking over his mind. No, I would never, there is no way that I ever could. Oh, but you can. Just like you can bring yourself to kill Sting and steal his power, travel back in time with the eclipse, and unleashing the wrath of 10,000 dragons. Future Rogue listed the cruel things he has done for his past self, who fell into a state of shock. Why you killed Sting? Rogue stammered, his body trembling. No, we did, you will eventually. Future Rogue snickered until Sting punched him in the face. I don't know what the hell turned you into this sorry excuse of a man. But damn it, I swear I will make sure it doesn't happen to our Rogue. Sting declared, bringing Rogue out from his state of shock. Fro thinks so too. Frosh declared with the most serious expression anyone has seen him with. Frosh, Future Rogue uttered, his eyes narrowed at his former Exceed partner. It doesn't matter, what is going to happen is already set in motion and there is no way for you to stop it. Don't listen to him, he doesn't know what he is talking about. Natsu came in flying on Atlas Flame, who slammed himself into Mother Glare. Why is Natsu riding on a dragon? Have you betrayed me, Atlas Flame? Future Rogue sneered at his former servant. I am only following my heart. Igneel's child is my friend's child. Atlas Flame declared. I'm counting on you, uncle. Natsu smirked. You uncle. My dragon control magic. Future Rogue growled while clenching his fists. You thought you could control my will, huh? Think again, brat. Atlas Flame roared at Future Rogue. But Rogue, don't listen to him. Our timelines are different. In his Itachi doesn't even exist. Which means, the future can change. This is not your future. Just another version. Let's go, uncle. Natsu declared as Atlas Flame charged into Mother Glare, biting his neck. Mother Glare tried blasting Atlas Flame off and the blast went through his wing and blew up a mountain. Are you okay, uncle? Breath attacks like that are ineffective against my flame body. Atlas Flame declared and sunk his fire fangs further into Mother Glare's neck. And flames can't burn through my adamantine body. Mother Glare looked calm as Atlas Flame's attack didn't seem to have any effect. I wouldn't underestimate my hellfire, so if I were you. Gigantic flames that erupt and rage from hell. And the one that devoured them, my fellow fire dragon. Natsu jumped from Atlas Flame, shining in the new fire he got from devouring Atlas Flame's hellfire. The fire burnt brightly around Natsu like never before as he punched the taken aback Future Rogue, as well as delivering a powerful blow to Mother Glare, making it roar in pain. Rogue, we can do this. Like Natsu said, you will not become this guy. We will never allow it, right? Sting looked up at Lecter and Frosh. Yeah, Lecter replied with a smile. Fro thinks so too. Rogue was shook to the core. He smiled a little, then frowned at his future self. I will be counting on you guys. Rogue smirked as the two of them also attacked Future Rogue and Mother Glare. Meanwhile, sneaking around the rubble were four figures. It was none other than Ivan Draar and the members of Team Raven Tail minus Obra, who was already dead. This is a perfect opportunity. We just need to find Laxus, and I will torture the information of Lumen Histoire out from the boy with my own two hands if I have to. Ivan declared with a crazed grin. The other members, Nullpudding and Kuro Hubby, snickered with their master, and Flare looked hesitant. Blondie, Flare looked out to the further distant of the city, where the Fairy Tail Guild among with the other guilds battled that fire dragon a few moments ago. With the memory of the blonde celestial wizard from Fairy Tail going through her mind. First, we need to find your son. Any ideas on how we do that? Nullpudding asked his master. We split up. Whoever finds him first reports back to me through this. Ivan sent a paper figure to each of his three henchmen. Go, and locate my dearest little Laxus. Ivan smirked as they all spread out. Itachi at this point was toying with Levia and the rock dragon, much to their annoyance. Both dragons unleashed a mighty breath attack at Itachi, who smirked at the attack like it was a mere joke. The red fiery aura of the Susanoo flared around him, forming two arms, one with the Yata mirror and the other with the Totsuka blade. The shield blocked Levia's attack and sent it bouncing back at the blue dragon, who quickly flew out of the way. And the Totsuka blade was swung down onto the rock dragon's attack, slicing it in half. Hey, so much for the legendary and feared dragons. Itachi looked up at both the dragons who now hovered over him. You are nothing more than a bunch of pathetic oversized lizards. The black markings on Itachi's body started to grow further around, covering his entire back upper body in darkness. Darkness also grew from his neck, making it look like an open collar. The black wizard Zirf leaned in closer from his seat and looked at Itachi. Oh, seems he is beginning to enter stage 3 soon. Zirf smirked out of amusement as his test was going exactly the way he wanted it to. Itachi's right claw morphed into that of a large spear tip. Now then, I'm getting sick and tired of wasting my time toying with you two. Itachi smirked, to which both dragons fumed with rage. We are dragons, you pathetic little human. You are nothing to us. The rock dragon roared as he and Levia charged towards Itachi, who wasn't faced by this at all. Itachi leapt up high above the dragons, and soared down with his dark spear arm directed at the rock dragon. The spear pierced through the dragon's back, making it roar in pain. Pathetic. Huh, nothing to you, huh. Itachi pushed the spear arm further into the rock dragon's back, making it cry out in even more pain. It is you, who is nothing compared to me. Rival. A familiar voice called out to Itachi, who looked from the corner of his eye to see Laxus, Mira, Urza, Gray, Juvia, Freed, Bixlow and Evergreen. Laxus, what do you want? Itachi questioned coldly, to which Laxus flinched. Something is seriously wrong with you. Earlier those attacks could have hit us as well. Laxus shouted, referring to when Itachi wiped out the mini-dragon army in the blink of an eye. Seriously, you came here to complain about that? Itachi pulled out the spear from the rock dragon's back, who twitched his body in pain while trying to get back up. Itachi walked towards his friends and slammed Levia to the side as he was about to attack him. Itachi did not take his eyes off Laxus and walked all the way up to his face. Got something to say, Laxus? Laxus couldn't get over the cold look in Itachi's eyes. He wasn't looking at him with malice or anything like that, rather it looked empty. Yeah, snap out of it. You are not yourself here, man. What happened to you? I'm not myself, and what's so wrong with that? I'm exterminating these foul beasts for you all. And besides, I have never felt better. Itachi smirked wickedly. That's not you talking, rival, Itachi, this is not you. Laxus placed his hand on Itachi's shoulder, and suddenly Urza grabbed a hold of Itachi's left demonic claw and looked into his eyes with a pleading look on her face. Snap out of it, please, Oni-san. Urza pleaded. Itachi looked around to see that all of his friends had the same look as Urza. Aye. Itachi brought his hand to his temple, his body trembling and the darkness twitching around his entire body. Meanwhile, looking from a distance was Kurohabi. Master Ivan, I found him. Kurohabi smirked. Good job, Kurohabi, everyone head to his location. Ivan ordered from another location as he and Nullpudding ran towards Kurohabi's direction. Meanwhile, Flare ignored the order and headed in a completely different direction. Lucky for her, Ivan's little paper doll wasn't able to see what she was doing. Inside of Itachi's mind, his body was completely under the dark lake and slowly sinking to the bottom. Urza, Mira, Laxus, Gray, Juvia, everyone, Itachi uttered, although his thoughts of light were silenced by dark whispers. My sensei holds me back from becoming a Chunin. He is jealous of my abilities. He is such a pathetic excuse of a Jonin. Itachi heard whispers of himself as a genin back when his Jonin teacher refused to let Itachi take the Chunin exam, out of jealousy of Itachi's talents. Father won't listen to me. Doesn't he know he is endangering Sasuke with this coup? Does he not care? No, it's because of those 3 attendants of his. Those 3, they will bring about the destruction of the Uchiha. I hate them. Itachi heard his old thoughts on his father's 3 attendants that once had the nerve to accuse Itachi of the murder of Shisui. Killing those 3, I wish I had done it sooner. He heard his 13-year-old self's thoughts on the attendants during the massacre of the Uchiha clan. Danzo, he killed Shisui, he threatened the life of Sasuke, I hate him. No, I mustn't listen. Itachi painfully struggled against his inner anger, yet whatever drug Obra gave him prevented him from doing so. Meanwhile, in the real world, the 2 dragons took the advantage to attack Itachi now that he was distracted. From Itachi's back came 2 beams of darkness taking the shape of a blade around the tip. The 2 dragons are forced back to prevent themselves from getting hit. They carefully observed Itachi looking for an opening to exploit. Itachi still had that cold look in his eye, and this aura of bloodlust and darkness around him. Go away. Itachi held his right claw to his temple, and growled at his friends who despite the warning did not move. No way, man, we can't leave you like this. Gray protested, and then they were all knocked back by a wave of power. Itachi, please snap out of it. Mira began to tear up. Seeing Itachi like this broke her heart. She couldn't even begin to imagine what pain he was going through, and from the looks of it, it was intense. Then a wave of sand, and a purple needle fist clashed into Freed, Bixlow and Evergreen, clearing the path to Laxus as Ivan jumped in front of his son. Hi there, Laxus. Ivan lifted the weakened Laxus up by his collar and slammed his fist into him. How dare you, you little brat. How dare you strike your father. Ivan growled in anger over Laxus' disobedience during the games, and Laxus gave his reply in a headbutt, sending Ivan back a few steps. "I don't have time to deal with you, deadbeat. Get lost," Laxus growled at his father with lightning flickering around him. "Hey, not until you give me what I want. The lumen histoire. Where is it?" Ivan demanded with his two henchmen standing by his side. The members of Fairy Tail surrounded them, Gray aiming to get back at Nullpudding for day one at the games. "Where is Flare?" Kurohubby questioned, looking around for their redhead female companion. "I don't know, perhaps she is even further away." Nullpudding shrugged. "Arg, Flare. Flare, where are you? Answer me," Ivan shouted in a paper doll in front of him. Meanwhile, Flare had used her hair to pull Lucy to safety from falling rubble. Lucy nervously thanked her, considering they used to be enemies. Flare smiled warmly at Lucy, who was running away, Flare's face growing hotter. Although that ended when she heard Ivan's screeching voice from the paper doll. She wrapped her hair around it and burnt the paper doll to ashes while looking at Lucy. She cut our communications. That wench," Ivan growled in pure rage as he made a mental note to make sure Flare would suffer later. Itachi widened his eyes upon hearing Ivan's voice, and the whispers in his head starting whispering on Raven Tail, what Ivan and his guild did to his friends. Itachi looked like he struggled for a while. As sweat started running down his forehead, he panted a little and his eyes widened. His eyes lost its cold look for a bit, until it returned after a few seconds, and followed by a malicious smirk that grew across Itachi's face. "Ivan," Itachi called out, gaining the exiled member of Fairy Tail's attention. "You fool, when are you going to realize that Laxus doesn't know what lumen history is? Only the master knows," Itachi said, to which Ivan growled and turned around to face Itachi, unknown of what dangerous things was going through the young man's mind at the moment. "Hey, you also wanted to learn about my powers, right? Hey, finally giving in and telling me, are we?" Ivan smirked and Itachi looked into his eyes with the Sharingan glowing blood red. "Then I shall show you." Itachi used Genjutsu to show Ivan every single last of his abilities, how they worked and functioned, and why Ivan couldn't use them. Ivan widened his eyes, and smiled with glee and a look of malice. "Amazing, amazing, that power. I want it, I want it." Ivan charged towards Itachi, with the aim being his eyes. "Consider this your last wish granted." Itachi gave a murderous smirk, and swung his demonic fist into Ivan's upper body in an uppercut, and Ivan's upper body exploded clean off, leaving his lower body and hands in a stain of blood on the ground. Laxus, Mira, Urza, Gray, Juvia, Freed, Evergreen, Bixlow, Kurohubby and Nullpudding all widened their eyes in disbelief and shock. Itachi just killed Laxus' father right in front of his eyes in cold blood, and in a single punch. Despite Ivan not being Laxus' favorite person in the world to say the least, he was still stunned that Itachi killed him, and with that cold smirk on his face while doing it. Mira and Urza gasped and looked at Itachi with shock, tears starting to swell in their eyes when they saw the cold murderous look in Itachi's eyes, and he was smiling with glee over seeing Ivan dead at his feet. And now, Itachi moved in a blink of an eye, and his demonic claws had morphed into blades and were stabbed through Nullpudding and Kurohubby. The two Raven Tail members froze as they saw their blood on the ground, and staining their clothes. For the underlings, Itachi smirked, looking at them with his Mangekyu glowing bright red, and both Raven Tail members burst into black flames of the Amaterasu. Their screams could be heard for miles as their bodies were eventually burnt to ash. The flames spread to the remains of Ivan's body, burning what was left to ashes. "And that takes care of that. Although that Flare woman is still missing, I will find her eventually." Itachi grinned and looked back at the dragons. "For now, I shall exterminate you beasts." Itachi leapt at the dragons, who quickly flew into the sky, and sent a breath attack, each blasting into Itachi. The smoke from the explosion of their breath attacks cleared, and Itachi jumped towards them with his Susanoo aura glowing around him, and from the darkness on his back stretched out what looked like black demonic wings of darkness. He traded blow for blow with the two dragons, who combined were able to at least match him. Mira looked at the burning flames of Amaterasu burning in the spots where the Raven Tail members once stood. None of them were a fan of Raven Tail, they didn't even like their members all that much. But for Itachi to kill them just like that, like it was out of some sick pleasure. Their worries for Itachi only grew, and their worries for what would happen when he doesn't care who dies, including their friends and family. "We can't let this go on, we have to find a way to snap him out of it," Mira said while looking at Itachi fighting the dragons up in the sky. "What are we going to do? It seems he is too far gone." Freed, uttered he, and the rest of the Thunder God tribe sharing a look of fear. He is not too far gone, Laxus said, looking at the burning pile of flames where his father once stood. Let's just snap him out of it before he kills someone important to us. It wasn't a secret that Laxus didn't like his father. He still didn't wish the man dead, but Ivan had no one to blame for his death other than his own foolishness. And Laxus knew that. Now all he wanted to focus on was getting his rival and friend back to normal. But how? Gray questioned. They all wanted to help him, but they didn't even know how. Earlier when we talked to him, he seemed to be fighting whatever was happening to him. We have to get close to him. Someone important to him has to get close and talk to him and try and reach him. Urza said, and they all looked at Urza herself and Mira Jane. No question that one of you two should do it. Gray smiled at them. If anyone could get Itachi back to normal, it was either his little sister or his girlfriend. Okay, but I don't think the two of us have enough magic power to fly to him. Before Urza could finish, Mira entered her Satan soul and flew towards Itachi and the two dragons. Mira, wait, Urza called out, but to no avail. Mira flew over Itachi, who started beating on the two dragons, delivering a powerful blow to both of them, sending them skidding back. I'm almost out of magic power, rescuing Lucy, fighting against the dragons, and the mini dragons had drained a lot out of Mira Jane. Itachi. She shouted his name from the top of her lungs, and she then exited her Satan soul and started falling towards the ground and towards Itachi. In Itachi's mind, he was reaching the bottom of the lake. Although the whispers were dying down, it was like the drug was wearing off. He then heard Mira call out his name. Itachi widened his eyes as a beam of light pierced through the lake of darkness, shining upon him. A light, the figure of Mira Jane came into view, falling towards him with her hand reaching out to him. An angel. Itachi got a full view of Mira. He widened his eyes and instantly reached his hand out to her. Mira, Itachi called out as the lake of darkness vanished and was cleansed away by the light. Itachi grabbed onto Mira's hand, and in an instant, they were back into reality. Mira's hand holding onto Itachi's black demonic claw as she fell into his arms. Mira held tightly onto Itachi, and the cold murderous aura around him vanished completely and instead was replaced by a warm and calming aura. Mira. Itachi looked into Mira, blue teary eyes as she looked at him with a smile of joy and relief that Itachi was back to normal. What have I done? Itachi on the other hand looked horrified as he started remembering what he had done when his hate and anger took over. He was filled with even more guilt when he noticed the cut on Mira's right thigh. Did I cause that? Itachi thought in his mind, not seeming to remember the early stages when he went on a rampage. Oh, Itachi. Mira's smile faded and she looked softly into his eyes while gently stroking his cheek. It's okay, you didn't do anything wrong. Mira comforted Itachi and embraced him in a hug. The moment was quickly ruined when the dragons charged at them. Itachi held Mira bridal style and flew away from the dragons and towards Urza and the others. He gently put her down next to Urza. Stay back, Itachi ordered, and formed the Susanoo around them, and sending 2 Yusaka beads into the dragons in a powerful explosion that knocked the dragons back. Itachi focused, and struggled, screaming, as the black marks started to retract. The darkness on his back and around his arms vanished as he went back to stage 1 of the black marking form, with only black flame markings on the right side of his face. Itachi panted, still holding the Susanoo up. Mira and Urza supported him up. Sorry, everyone, I am so sorry, Itachi uttered with a look of shame. Hey, we can talk about that later, but first, we have a job to do. Laxus stretched his hand out to his rival with a small smile on his face. Itachi slowly reached his hand out, but hesitated as he looked at the pile of ash that used to be Ivan and Raven Tail. Itachi knew this wasn't a moment to hesitate, and grabbed onto Laxus' hand. Let's slay these dragons. Laxus grinned. Yeah, I have a plan for that. Itachi smiled back and formed a hand seal. Shadow clone. 3 clones of Itachi popped out from a puff of smoke, also in stage 1 of the black markings. I have given each of these clones a large margin of my power. Spread out, you know what to do. Itachi said, and his clones moved out at super speed. What are they supposed to do? Gray questioned. What we are about to do. Laxus. Itachi looked at his rival and possibly his best friend. He stood up on his own and turned his back to Laxus. Grab onto my shoulders, we are going to need some Dragon Slayer power for these dragons. Everyone else, step out from the Susanoo. Everyone did as Itachi said, and Laxus held onto Itachi's shoulders as the Susanoo grew in size. It grew angelic-like wings and armor and grew into the perfect Susanoo. Wow, Laxus uttered as he and Itachi were in the jewel-like shape mark on the spectral warrior's forehead. Laxus, I need you to generate every single drop of your Dragon Slayer magic into me and the Susanoo. Itachi instructed and Laxus gave a little nod, inhaled his breath and focused on his magic power. Lightning flickered inside the Susanoo. Laxus magic power merging with the Susanoo as it now looked like a lightning giant wearing Susanoo armor. Laxus looked amazed at the spectral warrior, same with the rest of the fairy tale members and everyone else who could see the thing. Time to even the odds. Itachi focused every bit of his own power as well into the Susanoo. Meanwhile, Zirf watched the scene and let out a sigh. Such a shame, he managed to gain control before he could reach stage 3. Looks like I will need to continue my research for another time. Did the drug simply wore off? Or was being reminded of the light in his life that brought him back to his senses? Oh well, it doesn't really matter. I will see you again soon, Itachi Uchiha. And you as well, Natsu. Zirf then vanished from the scene in the blink of an eye, leaving no trace behind, like he never even was there to begin with. Gajeel had arrived to help out Wendy and Jalal with Zirconis. You really pissed me off as a ghost. Finally I can beat you up. Gajeel smirked and summoned up multiple iron pillars from the ground, jabbing them into Zirconis' gut. Wendy then flew over Zirconis with Carla and let out a mighty breath attack into Zirconis' back. Arg, you little pests. Zirconis started to grow annoyed at these two dragon slayers, and this human who blasted him with golden rays of light all the time. Zirconis inhaled and blasted out a breath attack at the trio. There was no escape, they widened their eyes in horror thinking this was the end. But then two spectral warriors flew in and shielded them from the blast. And in the spectral warriors were two Itachis. Itachi-san, Wendy questioned, although was then suddenly grabbed by the spectral hand of the Susanoo pulling her into it. She let out a small yelp when she was grabbed out of shock. What's going on? We are going to take down these dragons, but I need your help. Itachi said with his back turned to Wendy. He bent down and looked at the young dragon slayer from the corner of his eye. Place your hands on my shoulder, and generate every last drop of your dragon slayer power into me and the Susanoo. The clone instructed and Wendy didn't hesitate and grabbed onto Itachi's shoulders, focusing her power. Hey, let me in, Itachi. Carla shouted from outside the Susanoo over not being able to stay with Wendy and make sure she is safe. All of you better back up, the other Itachi clone said as his Susanoo had grabbed Gajeel who held onto Itachi's shoulders. Both the clones then formed the Susanoo into perfect Susanoo, thanks to the black marks giving them enough energy to pull it off, plus the extra energy from Wendy and Gajeel. Both the spectral warriors then looked like a wind and iron warrior with the Susanoo armor around them. Remarkable. Jalal widened his eyes at the scene and did what the clone said and backed up same with the others. The clone with Gajeel took off into the sky and flew towards Itachi and Laxus' perfect lightning Susanoo, facing Levia and the rock dragon. While Wendy and Itachi's clone stayed to face Zirconis. Natsu with his new power from eating Atlas Flame's hellfire, and now his lightning flame dragon mode activated on top of that, he was able to go toe-to-toe with future Rogue. They matched each other blow for blow, and with Sting and the current Rogue backing Natsu up, future Rogue seemed to be outmatched. Future Rogue was livid. Two of his dragons were dead, one had betrayed him and joined Natsu's side and at the moment fighting Motherglare. Natsu jumped back and forth upon Atlas Flame and Motherglare, jumping from fighting future Rogue, and onto Atlas Flame whenever said dragon would attack Motherglare, throwing future Rogue off balance, giving Natsu more openings to attack. Damn it all. Future Rogue growled as he barely avoided a punch from Natsu. Natsu then swung his body, throwing a fiery lightning kick directed at Future Rogue's head. Future Rogue raised his arm up in front of his head to block the blow. Damn you, Natsu Dragneel. Future Rogue shouted in anger and unleashed a mighty breath attack mixed with darkness and light. Lightning Fire Dragon. Roar. Natsu unleashed a mighty fire lightning breath attack clashing into Future Rogue's breath attack, sending a mighty light of their breath attacks that shined like a star over the capital. Both dragon slayers were blown back from the force of their attacks that exploded. Persistent little punk. Future Rogue gritted his teeth as he had burn marks on his right shoulder and down, while Natsu was bruised from his left shoulder and down. I will take you all down. Future Rogue charged at Natsu, although was halted as a blue sphere jabbed into his gut. He looked down to see a shirtless Itachi with black flame-like marks on the right side of his face, holding a blue sphere of energy in his right palm that was jabbed into Future Rogue. You again. Future Rogue looked irritated as he was blasted back. He was about to fall of Mother Glaire's back but managed to hold on by grabbing a hold of the dragon's tail. Itachi, back off. I'm taking him down, Natsu declared, burning with determination to get back on the one who killed Future Lucy. Natsu, I'm not here to defeat Future Rogue, the original has decided to leave the task up to you. I'm here to help you defeat these two dragons. The clone of Itachi replied, to which Natsu looked stunned for a moment. Wait, this fire dragon is not our enemy. He is my friend now, he is also Igneel's friend, Natsu declared, to which Itachi's clone raised his brow and looked at the fire dragon behind them. I am merely following my heart, siding with the son of my friend Igneel, Atlas Flame declared, and Itachi couldn't hear any sign dishonesty in the dragon's voice. He narrowed his gaze at the dragon, still not sure if he could trust the fire dragon. He decided to give a warning. I have already slayed 2 of your fellow dragons with my own hands. If you ever betray and harm my friends, I won't hesitate to do the same to you. Itachi gave Atlas Flame a threatening glare with his Mangekyo Sharingan glowing in a matching light with the red moon eclipse. Hey, you are brave for a human. But don't worry, I give you my word, as a proud fire dragon, I will not harm the son of Igneel or any of his friends. Atlas Flame was impressed over this human, displaying his powers earlier and slaying 2 dragons on his own, and showing such bravery. Natsu, I need you and I to merge our powers together, Itachi said, to which Natsu looked confused. Why? Natsu questioned, and Itachi looked down and Natsu followed his gaze, and saw 3 perfect Susanoo around the capital, one with lightning, iron and wind. To do that, Itachi's clone said with a smile at the fire dragon slayer. Nah, sorry but I'm busy fighting this guy. Hey, why don't you do that with Uncle here? Natsu smirked at the fire dragon who still hadn't gotten used to be called by that name. Natsu leapt towards Future Rogue who was still holding onto Mother Glaire's tail. Lightning Fire Dragon, Sword Horn. Natsu crashed into Future Rogue like a fire lightning missile, as they both flew towards the capital and away from the dragons. I'm counting on ya to finish off that dragon, Natsu shouted as he crashed into the capital with Future Rogue. Itachi's clone blinked in confusion. He then looked at Atlas Flame who looked at him. Well, hop on kid, let's do this, Atlas Flame declared, and Itachi's clone jumped onto the dragon. The clone focused every last bit of power the original gave to him as the red spectral armor of the Susanoo formed around Atlas Flame's blazing body. Atlas Flame looked into his claws, covered in the spectral energy. I don't feel that different. Trust me, with this your strength and defenses have grown significantly, Itachi's clone declared as Atlas Flame charged into Mother Glare, sending it flying into a clock tower. What about us? Sting questioned as he and Rogue were still flying in the air with Lecter and Frosh. Do whatever you want, help us, help Natsu. Your choice, Itachi replied as he flew on with Atlas Flame and charged at Mother Glare. The twin dragon slayers looked at each other for a moment. Should they help against the dragons? Or should they help Natsu take on Rogue's so-called future and confront a future pain of theirs? They both gave each other a nod and flew towards the spot where Natsu and Future Rogue crashed. The Iron Giant with spectral armor clashed into the Rock Dragon, pushing it away from Levia, who was fighting against the original Itachi and Laxus. Listen up Gajeel, I won't be able to keep this up for long, so we have to make this quick, understand? Full power right off the bat, Itachi's clone said to his companion the Iron Dragon Slayer. Yeah, got it, the little shrimp and the others are down there. Can't let this dragon roam around, Gajeel declared, and Itachi's clone pretended not to notice that the little shrimp reference referred to Levi. Gajeel let out a war cry along with the Iron Giant Susanoo. That shoulder charged into the Rock Dragon, sending it falling on its back. The Iron Perfect Susanoo crashed with its feet first right into the Rock Dragon's stomach, making the beast vomit out blood. The Iron Perfect Susanoo summoned 4th iron pillars from the ground, pushing up against the Rock Dragon's back, sending him flying into the sky. The Iron Perfect Susanoo flew after with its mighty fists gathered together over its head, and sledgehammered the dragon into the ground again. Little insects. The Rock Dragon fumed with anger and unleashed a breath attack into the Iron Perfect Susanoo, that was pushed back by the wave a little. The Rock Dragon then appeared at full speed behind the Iron Perfect Susanoo, slamming his tail into its back, cracking it up. We can't take more hits like that, Itachi's clone warned as the cracks on the Perfect Susanoo healed, although it was starting to use up all his remaining energy. Try and keep this thing up a little longer. We need to slay this bastard. Gajeel was beginning to sweat. He was using as much power as he could, but soon, he would run out, unless he gets a bite to eat. Hey, you got any of those knife things? I need to fuel up. Gajeel looked down on Itachi's clone, who he was holding the shoulders off. Here, catch. The clone threw up 4 shuriken stars and Gajeel devoured them in one bite, chewing on the iron, growing more and more magic power. Jeehee, like the salamander would say, now I got a fire in my belly. Come on, you beast. Gajeel shouted at the rock dragon, who gave a roar as a response. I will make sure to kill you too nice and slow. The rock dragon threatened and unleashed yet another breath attack. Itachi widened his eyes as the iron perfect Susanoo formed a spectral shield, the Yata mirror. It took the blast head on. The spectral iron warrior was pushed back a little until the breath attack bounced off the shield and straight into the rock dragon. The rock dragon grunted and started panting. He couldn't believe it, he was exhausted. He felt a surge of pain all over his body. His body was supposed to be indestructible, and yet pieces of rocks fell from his body. No, this cannot be happening to me. I am a dragon. I can't lose to weak, pathetic humans. The rock dragon grew more and more desperate. We ain't weak, you old piece of rock. Gajeel growled at the rock dragon. We humans are far stronger than you give credit for. Itachi's clone said, to which the rock dragon flinched and let out a mighty roar. Shut up, whatever you are. You ain't human. The rock dragon roared at Itachi and charged into the iron spectral giant, only to be slammed right into the ground. The iron giant spread its spectral angelic wings, and flew up, forming 10 Yasuke Magatama beads, that merged with waves of iron. The beads were swirling around the iron waves. The iron Susanoo swung its arms back, and then swung them forwards, directed at the rock dragon. Iron Yasuke beads. The beads crashed into the rock dragon, the massive destructive power of the Yasuke beads injuring the dragon, and the Iron Dragon Slayer magic cutting through his rock-solid body, making blood gush out from the cuts and tearing off pieces of the rock dragon's body. Arg, my body was cut through by mere Dragon Slayer magic. The rock dragon questioned in disbelief at how strong a Dragon Slayer became just by merging their power with a single other human. That's right, now we will slay you, you living mountain. Gajeel declared as the Susanoo summoned forth the Totsuka blade, that was surrounded with a hurricane of Iron Dragon Slayer magic, swirling around it like a million sharp blades in a storm. And no, the rock dragon backed up, and summoned up from the ground rocks, flying straight towards the incoming Susanoo, in a desperate attempt to win. Surely these humans couldn't keep this kind of power up for long. With my clone energy I can only keep this up for 30 seconds. Let's finish it now. Itachi's clone shouted, and Gajeel gave a nod, as the iron Susanoo used the iron-covered Totsuka to cut through the incoming rocks with no difficulty. The rock dragon grew desperate at this point. He inhaled his breath and unleashed the strongest breath attack he had, using every last bit of magic power. 20 more seconds. Itachi's clone informed. I got it, Gajeel said, and focused all his power into the sword of Totsuka. The iron-covered sword was swung into the wave, pushing through and cutting it in half. 10 seconds. They kept pushing through the wave, yet the rock dragon gave it his all, making the wave more difficult to cut through. They got closer and closer to the rock dragon and were mere inches away from cutting through the wave and reach the dragon. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They finally cut through and quickly stabbed the iron-covered Totsuka blade into the rock dragon. The dragon screamed in agony as its body was getting torn through, and then pulled into the gorge at the end of the sword just like Scissor Runner, and was sealed. 0. Itachi smiled and vanished in a puff of smoke, and the Susanoo faded. What the, Gajeel fell towards the ground, although just in time Jet swapped in and grabbed him and brought him over to Droy and Levi. Gajeel, thank goodness. Levi beamed with a smile of joy as she embraced Gajeel in a hug. Gajeel looked dumbfounded for a second, and then smiled and laid back, having used up all his power. Leaving the two jealous members of Team Shadow Gear to look at the scene, although they were glad Gajeel was safe and Levi was happy, and in the end smiled at the scene. The wind giant Susanoo charged a whirlwind blast surrounded with Yasuke beads that blasted into Zirconis, sending him falling onto his back, making what seemed for the dragon as an endless bombardment of powerful explosions. This can't be happening. Zirconis had a look of disbelief. These humans weren't supposed to mean anything, or be anything besides food for dragons. And yet, now it was he who couldn't do anything. This human who formed this spectral giant is no ordinary human. Let's go, Wendy. Itachi's clone focused all the energy the original had given him to hold the Susanoo up. Right, Wendy focused all the power in her body, and using enchantment spells to increase her own power, and Itachi's clone's power. The Susanoo let out a mighty roar and started throwing a bombardment of punches, with its spectral fists covered in whirlwinds. Zirconis was caught in the endless assault of fists, coming raining down into his body. Zirconis couldn't believe it, his mighty dragon body was getting injured. It was like fighting against his own brethren. Zirconis had always been a proud dragon, despite being a middle-class level dragon like the others that came through the gate, he still shouldn't be taking this kind of beating from mere humans. Even the lowest of the dragons should have no problem dealing with humans. Young lady, you are starting to annoy me. Zirconis growled as he managed to catch the next fist by sinking his fangs into the spectral wind warrior's arm. Itachi narrowed his gaze at Zirconis and pushed the spectral arm further into the dragon's mouth. The perfect Susanoo pushed its arm further and further until Zirconis had no choice but to let it go unless he wanted a broken jaw. Please just give up, that way you can live, Wendy warned the dragon, trying to help, yet Zirconis took it as an insult. Give up, him, a dragon, give up to a mere human. There was no way that was going to happen. Hey, there is no way a proud dragon would ever surrender to a mere human like you. Especially a mere human child. I will make sure to savor your flavor once I eat you. Zirconis latched himself onto the spectral wind warrior and sank his fangs into its shoulder, digging his teeth through the spectral armor. We can't let him break through. Itachi warned and moved the spectral wind warrior while Wendy kept giving the clone her power. The spectral wind warrior twisted its flying body sideways so that Zirconis' head was directed at the ground. Itachi then had the warrior slam itself into the ground, dragging Zirconis' head through the ground around the palace, ripping it apart. The spectral wind warrior then flew back up, at high altitude, and flew crashing down like a meteor, shoulder charging Zirconis into the ground, forming a crater. Jalal looked in awe at seeing Itachi's clone and Wendy fighting against the dragon. Carla was carrying the princess while Panther Lily was carrying Arcados and Yukino, looking down on the battle from the sky. Incredible, Hisui uttered at the display of power from these battles taking place across the capital. This Itachi is giving the dragon slayers the boost they need to overwhelm the dragons. He is fairy tale's strongest for a reason, although I must admit, he is quite impressive. Panther Lily commented, thinking back on the Itachi he met in Edelus. The commander was nothing like him. Could it be because of those black flame marks? Panther Lily thought, looking closely at the clone within the spectral wind warrior. Zirconis was covered in bruises as he laid in the crater, while the spectral wind warrior was recovering from Zirconis sinking his fangs into its shoulder earlier. We need to finish this now. I can't hold the perfect Susanoo up for much longer, Itachi's clone warned, and Wendy looked down on the injured Zirconis with pity. Can't we? Wendy was about to suggest something, but was interrupted as Zirconis used this opportunity to blast them with a breath attack, engulfing the entire spectral wind warrior. Everyone was blinded by the bright light of the breath attack, and once it died down, the spectral wind warrior stood there completely unscratched. Damn, my cloth vanishing magic couldn't destroy that armor. What is it even made of? Zirconis had in a desperate attempt tried to strip the spectral wind warrior off its spectral armor, although the attempt was unsuccessful. Why didn't that work? Wendy questioned, as not even she or Itachi were affected by the blast and still had their clothes. His magic dissolves fabric. The Susanoo is merely spectral spirit energy from my chakra. And that energy works as a shield around us, preventing us from getting physically harmed. In return though, it is extremely exhausting to keep the Susanoo up. Itachi explained as the spectral wind warrior threw a tornado-covered fist into Zirconis' face, sending smashing into the ground. Damn it! Zirconis roared, and the spectral wind warrior spread its angelic-like wings and flew up into the sky. The warrior spread its arms out to the side, creating 10 Yusaka beads spinning around rapidly. Wendy, fuse them with your magic, Itachi ordered. Alright, Wendy nodded, and the beads were surrounded in vortexes of wind. The spectral wind warrior swung its arms back, and then swung them forward, sending the Yusaka vortexes flying into Zirconis. And the palace area lit up with the light of a bombardment of explosions, that also had vortexes spinning around it, shredding through Zirconis' scales. Hisui covered her eyes from the rubble flying around from the explosions, same with Yukino and Arcados, while Carla and Panther Lily closed their eyes, having their hands full. Amazing, Hisui uttered in awe, seeing the beaten and battered Zirconis in a crater looking to be unable to move. Zirconis tried to crawl out from the rubble, unable to stand up, blood dripping down from his jaw. Damn, I can't believe I lost, Zirconis uttered weakly while breathing heavily. He looked up to see the spectral wind warrior looking down on him. Let's finish it, Wendy. Itachi summoned forth the Totsuka blade into the spectral warrior's hand. No wait, Wendy shouted, to which Itachi halted with a look of confusion. He is beaten, there is no need to kill him. Wendy, being an innocent child, wanted to try and change Zirconis' view on humans, and try and solve this without killing him. Considering Zirconis was a sensible dragon, who was willing to even talk to them, she wanted to try and find another way. Wendy, he is dangerous, we cannot put our friends' lives at risk. Itachi argued calmly and gently, looking at the little dragon slayer from the corner of his eye. I don't enjoy killing or hurting people either, although sometimes taking a life is needed. Like you had to? Wendy questioned, to which Itachi's clone widened his eyes, as Wendy brought up his past. Because of what I learned from seeing your life, I know sometimes there is no other way, but I feel like this time there is another way. Wendy, the clone couldn't finish what he was going to say as its time ran out and it vanished in a puff of smoke. Wendy looked down as the Susanoo faded away along with the Wind Warrior. Wendy let out a scream as she was falling down to the ground. The screaming stopped once she was grabbed by someone. Jalal had swapped in and grabbed the falling Wendy into his arms, and safely put her on the ground. Are you okay? Jalal put his hand on her shoulder. Thank you, Jalal-san. Wendy gave the criminal a beaming smile, which he returned. Wendy. Carla flew down towards Wendy while holding onto Hisui, and once they were on the ground she let go of the princess and flew into her friend's arms. I was so worried about you. Sorry, I'm okay though, Carla. Itachi kept me safe through the entire battle. Wendy smiled warmly at her friend, and then she walked towards the crater with Zirconis. Zirconis looked up, seeing just the little girl and that the warrior was gone. Hey, just you wait, once I manage to gather up enough strength, I will eat you. Zirconis, Wendy uttered, looking at the dragon with pity. Meanwhile, up in the sky, Atlas Flame, now covered in the spectral armor of the Susanoo, clashed into Mother Glare. Mother Glare slammed his claws into Atlas Flame's back but was shocked to find out that his claws didn't go through. What is this? It's called the Susanoo, it's the ultimate defense and it puts even your scales to shame. Itachi declared, to which Atlas Flame looked amused at seeing Mother Glare growl at that insult. Don't you mock me. Mother Glare unleashed a breath attack, sending the spectral armored covered Atlas Flame falling downwards, with the Susanoo armor slowly getting torn up. Thought you said this is the ultimate defense. Atlas Flame grunted from the force of being pushed down. It is, although even the strongest of defenses can crack given enough force. Raise your left front leg, Itachi instructed, to which Atlas Flame looked confused. What good will that do? Atlas Flame questioned. Just do it, Itachi shouted, and Atlas Flame raised up his arm against the breath attack, and then Itachi widened his eyes as a shield formed on Atlas Flame's front leg. And they stopped getting pushed down as the breath attack bounced off and flew right up towards Mother Glare, who managed to avoid the blast just in time. Okay, what is this shield? Atlas Flame looked at the shield on his left front leg, and the shield then vanished in an instant. It's called the Yata Mirror. It's an unbreakable shield, the only downside it is not big enough to cover the entire body of the Susanoo. Itachi explained, and Atlas Flame looked towards Mother Glare, who came flying towards them. Spread your wings, Itachi instructed, and Atlas Flame didn't bother to argue this time. Hellfire Yusaka Magatama, a barrage fire of Yusaka beads came flying out from Atlas Flame's wings, covered in his hellfire. The endless barrage blasted into the incoming Mother Glare. The explosions formed a fiery cloud in the sky that kept on expanding from the barrage fire. Shockwaves were sent blasting through the sky and the city, everything was shaking from these powerful explosions. Itachi and Atlas Flame then halted the barrage and looked up at the giant smoke cloud in the sky. Stand by with a breath attack, Itachi instructed. Yeah, Atlas Flame nodded and inhaled his breath. The smoke cleared, revealing Mother Glare, who had covered his body with his wings. The dragon growled as some his adamantine scales had been destroyed and burnt through. Damn you! Mother Glare spread his wings and let out a mighty roar. Blast him, Itachi said, and Atlas Flame without hesitation unleashed his mighty hellfire blast, blasting into Mother Glare. Mother Glare growled in pain as the flames were hitting the spots where his adamantine scales had been destroyed, and burnt into his flesh. Arg, don't think this will be enough to take me down. Mother Glare was able to work through the pain, and with only a few of his scales broken he was able to defend most of his body from Atlas Flame's hellfire. Mother Glare managed to push himself off the hellfire breath attack. Mother Glare flew around and then shoulder charged right into Atlas Flame's side, cracking up the Susanoo armor a little. Itachi focused his gaze on the damaged spot of the armor, and focused his chakra onto healing the cracks. The spectral armor then expanded around Atlas Flame's tail forming a blade. Atlas Flame noticed it and swung his tail towards Mother Glare, piercing the sword right through Mother Glare's right wing. Mother Glare widened his eyes in disbelief and Atlas Flame then shoulder charged into Mother Glare's upper body. Atlas Flame then sank his blazing fangs right into Mother Glare's neck. You alone won't be able to break through my adamantine scales like that. Alone that is. Itachi focused spectral energy around Atlas Flame's blazing fangs increasing their sharpness. Atlas Flame pushed his enhanced fangs further in and then managed to pierce through the adamantine scales. Blood squirted out from Mother Glare's neck making the dragon roar in pain. Don't underestimate my hellfire. Atlas Flame roared as the blazing flames of his hellfire burned from his fangs and into the bite wound on Mother Glare's neck. Arg, let go of me. Mother Glare roared and slammed Atlas Flame into the ground with him, hoping to push him off. Hey, one thing me and the child of Igneel have in common, we are both extremely stubborn. Atlas Flame sunk his blazing fangs further in, while stabbing Mother Glare's body with his spectral blade-covered tail. Mother Glare couldn't believe it. Before this spectral armor this human surrounded around Atlas Flame, his adamantine defense was broken through like it was nothing. Arg, I've had enough. Mother Glare sunk his fangs into Atlas Flame's neck. Although Atlas Flame was protected by the armor of the Susanoo, the armor started to crack under the pressure of Mother Glare's fangs. Itachi's clone looked exhausted, his energy was running low. Sorry, but soon you will have to fight him without defenses like this. I don't think I can hold on much longer. Oh, is this your limit then, human? Atlas Flame looked from the corner of his eye on Itachi who was standing on the top of his head. Well, I am just a clone with 20% of the original's power. Without you I wouldn't even have been able to pull of the Susanoo like this. Itachi's clone replied, to which both dragons widened their eyes. Atlas Flame then started to chuckle, sounding amused. You impress me, human, really. All this power and you are just a clone, you have my respect. Most of this power is thanks to these marks though, Itachi's clone said as the black flame marks on the right side of his face slowly grew. Oh, those demon marks you mean? Atlas Flame said, to which Itachi raised his brow in confusion. Demon marks, you know what these marks are? Itachi looked down on Atlas Flame, finally a clue to this power. You mean you don't know? Well, those marks are the symbol of. Atlas Flame wasn't able to finish as Mother Glare finally managed to push through the Susanoo armor and sunk his fangs into Atlas Flame who roared in pain. Atlas Flame, Itachi focused his power as the Susanoo armor unleashed a mighty red flary aura, and Atlas Flame unleashed a mighty blast of flames that pushed Mother Glare off. Before they got the chance to talk, Mother Glare unleashed a breath attack at Atlas Flame, cracking the armor up even more. Atlas Flame struggled to direct his jaw at the breath attack pushing him down. Once he was directed in position both he and Itachi's clone focused their power as one. Hellfire Yusaka Roar. A gigantic wave of flames with Yusaka beads swirling around it blasted into Mother Glare's breath attack pushing it back. Mother Glare put more force into his breath attack pushing it down towards Atlas Flame and Itachi. Itachi's clone focused the remaining bits of his power, and Atlas Flame increased the level of power in his breath attack as well. With their combined power, the blazing wave of Yusaka Magatama covered fire pierced straight through Mother Glare's breath attack. Mother Glare widened his eyes as he was blasted with the blazing fire, and with the intense explosions of the Yusaka beads to add. Itachi's clone fell to his knees while panting. Damn, my time is up. The clone uttered as the Susanoo armor vanished around Atlas Flame. Don't worry, I can take it from here no problem. Atlas Flame assured before Itachi's clone vanished in a puff of smoke. The smoke cleared around Mother Glare, who was covered in injuries, almost most of his mighty adamantine scales had been destroyed. As the situation was dawning on him, he failed to see and do something about the incoming attack. Atlas Flame flew into Mother Glare and sunk his blazing fangs into his neck making the dragon roar in pain. Time to finish this, Atlas Flame declared as they were falling like a meteor towards the Eclipse Gate. While the battle between dragons were taking place, Natsu flew crashing like a fiery lightning meteor pushing Future Robe with him. Future Rogue growled, utilizing his White Shadow Dragon mode aura, trying to push Natsu off before they collided with the ground. Before he managed to push Natsu off, two fists slammed into his face, belonging to his past, the present Rogue and Sting. "What are you guys doing?" Natsu questioned. "This guy is our problem too," Sting declared. "To deny this future, I need to do this," Rogue declared as they all four crashed into the ground, creating a small crater. "TCH, guess I got no choice. I just want to deal the finishing blow if that is cool with you." Natsu slammed his fist into his left palm while fire and lightning flared around him. "Hey, of course," Sting cracked his knuckles while glaring at Future Rogue. "I don't have a problem with that," Rogue said as both he and Sting entered Dragon Force. "Frosh, you and Lecter stay back." The two Exceeds nodded and flew up into the sky. Future Rogue threw a quick glance at Frosh before returning his focus on his past self. "Seeing you like this makes me want to vomit. To think I was once like that, acting all friendly with a cat in a frog costume." Future Rogue snarled in disgust at his old self. "Don't you mock Frosh, with my face and voice." Rogue snapped and charged with his fist raised. Shadow Dragons. Crushing Fang. Rogue slammed his fist at his future self, who caught it without any effort. "Hey, you really thought you could stand up to me? Fool, I am way stronger than I was 7 years ago. You and Sting are mere insects to me as you are now." Future Rogue's palm let out a white dark glow. "Be gone." Future Rogue smirked as present Rogue was sent flying back, crashing into a building by a white dark light. "Rogue, you bastard." Sting charged, both his fists charged up with white energy. Future Rogue blocked each and every strike from Sting without any effort. "Pathetic, your fighting style is as predictable as ever." Future Rogue then, to Sting's surprise, ate the light surrounding his fists. "Again, thanks for this power." Future Rogue sent Sting flying back by blasting a wave of light and darkness into him. Sting tried to eat it but to no avail. Why can't I eat it?" Sting questioned, to which Future Rogue snickered. "Even though it has the White Dragon Slayer power in the mix, it still also has my shadows. I can eat both your attacks, but you can't eat mine." Future Rogue smirked maliciously. "But you can't eat my fire and lightning." Natsu slammed a fiery lightning-covered fist into Future Rogue, sending him crashing into a pile of rubble. Future Rogue crawled back up, only to be kicked in the gut by both Sting and Rogue, sending him flying through 3 buildings. "If we can't use our magic," Rogue cracked his knuckles and pulled out his katana. "Then we can still use our fists," Sting smirked as their Dragon Force power amplified their strength. "White Shadow Dragon. Roar." Future Rogue unleashed a mighty breath attack of light and darkness, flying towards Sting and Rogue. Natsu then jumped in front of them, inhaling his breath. "Lightning Fire Dragon. Roar." Natsu unleashed a mighty breath attack of his boosted fire from Atlas Flame's Hellfire mixed with the flickering lightning from Laxus. Both his and Future Rogue breath attacks matched in size and collided with each other in a power struggle. "Rogue," Sting called, and they both moved around the breath attack, ready to attack Future Rogue on the other side. Future Rogue widened his eyes when his past self attacked from the right and Sting attacked from the left. Present Rogue raised his katana, and Sting raised his fist. Future Rogue stretched his hands out to the side with white and dark auras gathering in both of them. "White Shadow Dragon. Rough Silk." Future Rogue blasted multiple thin rays of light and darkness at Sting and Rogue. Sting brought his arms together in an X formation, and the rays cut the side of his legs and arms. Rogue deflected as many of them as he could with his katana, but after a few his katana broke in half from one of the rays. Sting ignored the pain and threw a heavy punch into Future Rogue's face. And Rogue elbowed his future self in the chest, hitting his ribcage. Future Rogue vomited out a little blood, and both Sting and Rogue jumped back as Natsu's breath attack gained the upper hand and blasted into Future Rogue. Rogue ducked and covered from the blast his future self got hit with. He widened his eyes as he felt something grab a hold of his ankle. He looked down to see a hand stretching out from a shadow and pulled him in. Natsu and Sting looked at the shadow moving around the battlefield, hearing grunts from one of the rogues coming from the shadow. And eventually their rogue was knocked out from the shadow, with an uppercut punch from his future self to his chin. Rogue fell crashing to the ground, his body covered in cuts and bruises. He had a deep cut across the bridge of his nose that was going to leave a scar. His body was trembling. He tried to move but to no avail. "I can't move," Rogue uttered. "Rogue." Sting looked in concern for his friend, and let his guard down. That Future Rogue exploited and threw an uppercut punch into Sting's chest, making him vomit up blood. Future Rogue then kicked him across the face, knocking Sting to the ground. To think, I would have to kill you again. It sure is a strange feeling. Future Rogue charged up a blast in his right palm. Lightning Fire Dragon. Iron Fist. Natsu threw a powerful punch of fire and lightning into Future Rogue's right cheek, making a powerful shockwave and sending the time traveler blasting across the battlefield. Sting, Rogue, you both have done more than enough. Let me finish this. Natsu walked towards Future Rogue, charging up a massive surge of blazing fire with lightning violently flickering around the flames on his fists. Natsu moved at his full speed and started bombarding Future Rogue with his fists of fire and lightning. Future Rogue sneered and started countering Natsu with his fists of light and darkness. The two of them matched each other blow for blow. Natsu's power had increased thanks to the flames of Atlas Flame, making him just as strong, if not stronger than Future Rogue. Future Rogue jumped back, sending rays of darkness and light at Natsu, who slammed his fists together, creating a giant sphere of fire and lightning. Lightning Fire Dragon. Brilliant Flame. The fire lightning sphere vanquished Future Rogue's rays. Natsu looked up to see Future Rogue jumping over the sphere, inhaling his breath. White Shadow Dragon. Roar. Future Rogue sent the wave of light and darkness blasting into Natsu. Natsu grabbed a hold of the wave and started skidding back. Natsu gathered as much strength as he could, although he could not push himself off. Damn it. Natsu growled as the intensity of the wave started shredding his clothes, as well as cutting his body. Two figures then jumped in front of the wave, grabbing a hold of it and pushed Natsu to the side. Natsu widened his eyes, seeing Sting and Rogue holding onto the wave while being pushed back. Sting, Rogue. Take this as our apology for how we acted towards you during the games. Sting declared with a smirk shared with Rogue. Just take him down for us, Rogue said as they were blasted into a 6-story apartment building that crumbled to the ground from the explosion of the breath attack. Natsu looked at the unconscious Sting and Rogue laying in the rubble, and their two exceeds coming to their aid. Sting, Lecter shouted and started shaking the unconscious Sting. Rogue, Frosh started shaking the unconscious Rogue as well. Natsu glared daggers at Future Rogue, who growled at Natsu. Explosions from the other battles echoed through the capital. You've lost, punk, Natsu declared, gathering up every last bit of power he had left. I will end this now. I told you, you are going to pay for what you have done. No, I will not lose to you again. Future Rogue growled in anger, charging up a powerful aura of light and darkness around him. White Shadow Dragon. Sword Horn. Lightning Fire Dragon. Sword Horn. They both charged at each other like missiles, one of light and darkness, and one of fire and lightning. They crashed into each other, sending waves of lightning, fire, shadows, light flickering around them, tearing up the ground while sending powerful quacks and shockwaves. From their combined pressure of power, a crater formed beneath them and expanded. Future Rogue sneered and growled like a madman. His dragons were getting killed off one by one. His plan was in ruins. The only thing he focused on now was killing Natsu Dragneel with his own two hands. Natsu Dragneel, Future Rogue shouted. Natsu kept powering up, trying to get through. Die, die, bastard. Future Rogue fumed with anger. Then a rock hit his face. He looked to the side and saw a crying Frosh glaring at him, having thrown the rock. Future Rogue's bloodlust faded for a mere second, and that was all it took. AAAARRRRGGGHHHH. Natsu managed to overpower Future Rogue, who had let his guard down for only a mere second. Their attacks negated each other, and Natsu threw a fiery lightning-covered fist in an uppercut punch to Future Rogue's chin, sending him flying up in the air. Now, Natsu gathered a massive amount of fire in one hand, and lightning in his other hand. Crimson Lotus. Exploding Lightning Blade. Natsu swung his arms around, creating a highly destructive vortex of fire and lightning, blasting and bombarding into Future Rogue. Once the bombardment ended, Future Rogue fell flying to the ground in a loud thud, knocked out while gaping. That's for Lucy, Natsu uttered as his lightning fire aura vanished and he fell to his knees, panting, having used up his power. Meanwhile, the lightning giant with the spectral armor of the perfect Susanoo surrounding it, clashed into Levia as Laxus and Itachi let out a war cry. The lightning Susanoo threw a powerful punch right into Levia's jaw, sending it flying to the ground. The lightning Susanoo flew after him and threw a powerful uppercut punch to Levia's jaw. Then it slammed its mighty lightning fist into the dragon's gut, making it bend forward, followed by a right hook and then a left. The lightning giant raised its arms over its head and sledgehammered the top of Levia's head, sending him crashing to the ground. Levia's body was already very injured from taking on stage 2 black marking Itachi, and now his body felt like it was about to give in. Levia growled over the thought of how weak he looked. He forced himself with pure willpower to stand back up, and slam his head into the lightning giant, sending it back a little. Levia then opened his massive jaws and blasted a mighty breath attack at the spectral armored lightning giant. A wave of explosions from the breath attack went in a straight line through the city and destroyed a mountain in the distance. That should show them not to mess with me. A giant lightning fist slammed into his face, as the lightning spectral warrior had moved at lightning-like speed from the destroyed mountain. Luckily no one was hurt, Itachi commented while looking back on the scorched line through the capital. How long can you hold up this thing? Laxus questioned. Well, at full power I would have been able to keep this up for maybe 30 or 40 minutes. But since I have used up some power, and divided some of my power into those clones, I should be able to keep the Susanoo up for maybe 5 more minutes. Itachi replied as Levia charged into them and the lightning Susanoo grabbed the dragon around its neck. The perfect Susanoo dragged Levia around and tossed him into the air. They flew after Levia and elbowed him into the ground, creating a crater from the massive impact of the dragon's body. That will be more than enough to slay this bastard. Laxus grinned and tightened his grip on Itachi's shoulders slightly, and sent even more of his remaining power into his rival. The lightning-perfect Susanoo flew down with its legs crashing into Levia's back, sending a shockwave that expanded the crater and caused the nearby building to crumble into piles rubble. The lightning Susanoo grabbed onto Levia's tail and started spinning around at immense speed. Making it look like a hurricane with thunder, Levia was eventually thrown out from the thunder hurricane and sent flying into the air. The lightning Susanoo appeared over the dragon with its hands gathered and raised over its head. Levia was sent crashing to the ground once more by a lightning-covered sledgehammer attack. What is this? This magic is hurting me. Levia crawled out from a crater, his body bruised up badly from the beating he took from Itachi during stage 2 of his black markings, and now this. His body also had cut marks and blood gushing out from them. He was panting, feeling like his legs might stop working at any moment. He couldn't die here. He was supposed to slay Igneel, his new king, Rogue. Wait, why did he obey Rogue? Wasn't he just an ordinary human? Levia shook the thought out of his head and returned his focus onto the battle. This is the power of a Susanoo and Dragon Slayer magic combined. Itachi declared as the lightning Susanoo flew down towards Levia like a bolt of lightning crashing from the sky. It's what's going to kill ya. Laxus declared as he inhaled his breath, and the spectral armor head of the Susanoo opened its jaw as red energy and lightning gathered into a sphere that expanded a little in size. Yusaka Thunder. Roar. A massive wave of lightning surrounded with Yusaka beads circling around it. Levia widened his eyes in horror. He was actually going to die here, and to these pathetic humans. No, I refuse to die here. I refuse to die to humans. Levia unleashed his mightiest breath attack, sending it clashing into the lightning Yusaka wave. The struggle lasted for a few seconds, but the lightning Yusaka wave pierced right through it like a bolt of lightning and then vanished, having destroyed Levia's breath attack. And then in a flash like a thunderbolt, the lightning Susanoo cut through Levia with the Totsuka blade covered in lightning. Blood gushed out from the dragon, who was sliced in two from its torso and down. And no, this can't be real, this can't be happening to me. Levia's body fell to the ground in a loud thud, and the lightning Susanoo faded with both the fairy tale S-class wizards falling towards the ground. Just when they are about to hit the ground, they are grabbed by a giant hand. They both weakly looked up to see a proudful giant Makarov looking at them with a beaming smile of pride. Laxus looked at his grandfather with a smirk, giving a thumbs up, while Itachi couldn't look the master in the eye out of guilt. Even if it wasn't intentional, he still killed Ivan, Makarov's son and Laxus' father. They all looked towards a beaming light of fire in the distance, seeing Atlas Flame, his fangs sunk in through Motherglare's neck. The scales on the dragon were mostly destroyed thanks to Itachi's perfect Susanoo merged with Atlas Flame. They soared down from the sky like a meteorite and headed straight towards the Eclipse Gate. The two dragons crashed into the massive gate that was reduced to rubble, and a tremor was felt spreading towards the entire capital and beyond. The remains of the dragons vanished like they were never there to begin with. Motherglare, who lost his life to Atlas Flame in the final moment, began to vanish with Atlas Flame letting out a roar of victory. Atlas Flame slowly began to vanish as well. Zirconis was barely able to stand after the beating Wendy and Itachi's clone have given to him, and now his body was slowly fading away and returning to his original timeline. What's happening? Damn you humans! Zirconus roared before he vanished in a flash of golden light. Mother Glaire's body vanished without a trace, and Atlas Flame looked over at Natsu, who stood over the defeated future rogue, while helping up the beaten Sting and present rogue. I will never forget you, Natsu Dragneel. Atlas Flame managed to give his final words to Natsu before he vanished in a flash of light. Thanks, Uncle. Natsu paid respects to his new dragon friend as he was returning to his original time. Everyone stared around them in bewilderment, as all traces of the dragon corpses, and whatever remained of the mini-dragons that were destroyed vanished, like they were never there. Looks like we won. Levi smiled as she supported up the injured Gajeel. Yeah, although, Gajeel looked into his palm. We weren't able to slay a single dragon by ourselves, we needed help. With Itachi, Laxus, Master Makarov and many others. It feels kind of unsatisfying. We needed you to help us take down the dragons. Laxus looked over at Itachi, who wasn't really paying attention as he was busy reflecting over what he did during his rampage. Laxus sighed, knowing there was no use in getting to him now. He wondered what Gramps would think. Laxus was pretty sure Itachi was thinking the same. Sting and Rogue sat back as Natsu approached the defeated future rogue, who was also beginning to vanish. Hey, we weren't able to slay a single dragon. Sting uttered with disappointment, and Rogue seemed to agree. Makes me sick of hearing the term Dragon Slayer. Rogue laid back, feeling exhausted. Just goes to show how strong dragons are, and that Acnologia is probably even stronger. Sting remembered what he said when he met Natsu during the first day during the games, where he mocked him for not being able to slay Acnologia. He regretted that statement more than anything now. Rogue listened to the cheers, drowning out their disappointment. Everyone was cheering in victory. Rogue looked from the corner of his eye to look at Natsu walking towards his future self, who started all this. There is no way I will become like that. Natsu looked down on future Rogue, having gained revenge for future Lucy. The Rogue I know will never become you. No, as a shadow dragon slayer, the darkness follows me. And increases in power the more despair I feel. The day I lose Frosh is the day I let the darkness take over. Future Rogue said while looking up into the night sky. Frosh ain't gonna die, Natsu retorted. A year from now, Frosh will be killed by Grey during a battle against you. Future Rogue declared, and Natsu widened his eyes in shock upon hearing this. Hey, you and your guild will meet their toughest challenge in a year from now. A war is coming, and in that war Frosh will die. Future Rogue declared as he vanished completely. Natsu was left in shock, looking at the spot Future Rogue once laid. He was brought out from his trance when he felt someone hug him from behind. He recognized her scent. He would recognize that scent anywhere. I did it, Lucy. Natsu said to the celestial wizard who was hugging him while crying into his back. Meanwhile, with Itachi, Itachi sat before Makarov and most of his guildmates. His eyes were filled with looks of regret and guilt. Master, forgive me, Itachi uttered, to which Makarov raised a brow in confusion. For what, my boy? Makarov placed his hand on Itachi's shoulder. Itachi's guilt made him feel like he didn't deserve sympathy from his master, and he gently brushed Makarov's hand off his shoulder. The dark power took over. Itachi began to explain how he was bit by that imp creature Obra from Raven Tail, and that he remembered feeling like his body was on fire. He remembered feelings of anger and despair rise within him, and finally hatred. He also mentioned how he didn't remember what happened when he first transformed into that, but that he eventually gained some kind of control, so that he knew and could see what he was doing. And he only remembered feeling hatred. Itachi clenched his fists. In my rampage, I killed Ivan and 2 members of Raven Tail, Nullpudding and Kurohibi. Makarov widened his eyes in terror upon hearing this. His son was dead. Makarov gained a saddened look at hearing of his son's demise, yet he didn't look angry or like he blamed Itachi. Itachi. What's more, I did it in front of Laxus. I couldn't stop myself. I just couldn't. That feeling of hate was too overwhelming. Please, forgive me. Itachi started to tremble a little. He had always suppressed his anger and hate, and never brought it out for a long time. The last time he remembered bringing out his wrath on someone was when he killed his father's 3 attendants during the Uchiha massacre. I don't blame you. Laxus was the one to speak up, causing Itachi to stop shaking. He looked down with widened eyes. The deadbeat, my father, was an idiot. His death was not your fault. Laxus is right, I don't blame you either. Ivan got himself killed because of his own greed and foolishness. The only thing I regret is not reaching out to him sooner. I wasn't around much when Ivan was growing up, I was too busy going on jobs and adventures. I left him in the hands of Master Precht when he was growing up. He must have been influenced a lot by Precht in his life. At some point, he got obsessed with the guild and its secrets, and he got obsessed with power. Not reaching out to that boy, and paying more attention to him when he was a child, is my greatest regret in life. Makarov sighed in sadness, the feelings of grief and regret at the time he had lost with his son. Please Itachi, don't blame yourself. Makarov gave the young man a comforting smile, trying to cheer him up, but to no avail. Please master, I need to be left alone, Itachi said. Makarov gave a nod of understanding and he and the guild members started walking away, with only 6 hesitating to leave him: Urza, Mira, Laxus, Kana, Gray and Juvia. It really wasn't your fault. Laxus spoke before going after his grandfather, with Kana supporting him up. You think he will be okay? Kana looked concerned for her friend. He will pull through, he is my rival after all. Laxus replied with a small smile, and despite that his eyes showed signs of concern. You don't have to act brave in front of me, I've known you for a long time, Laxus. Kana smiled at him and gently patted his back. Yeah, thanks. Laxus smiled genuinely a little as the guild's #1 drinker gave him a beaming smile. Gray-sama, Juvia is sure Itachi-sama will be okay. Juvia grabbed onto Gray's hand, who didn't take his eyes of one of his closest friends. I know he will, Gray uttered, and he and Juvia walked away. Oni-san, do you want us to? Urza reached out to her brother, who sent her a glance. Please, Urza, I just need a little time alone. Itachi shut down her offer and Urza gave a sad nod of understanding. Come on Mira, Urza called out to Mira Jane, who couldn't take her eyes of Itachi. Seeing him like this was breaking her heart. She just wanted to give him a big hug and tell him it was going to be alright. Mira, Urza called out again, and this time Mira started walking towards Urza. Itachi, Mira looked back at Itachi for a second, but no more words came out. She didn't even know what to say. She shed a small tear as she turned around and walked away with Urza. As they were walking away, Itachi's lifeless eyes were focused on the scratch on Mira's right thigh. In the distance, having gotten away before the royal army could question them, Jalal, Altair and Merity looked down at the ruins of the capital. Jalal, we should get going. Altair called out to their leader, who looked concerned for a certain redhead and her adopted older brother. Yeah, coming. Jalal turned around and followed after Altair and Merity. So, now what? We know now what caused the feeling of Zaref's presence during the games. What's our next move? Merity questioned their leader. I was thinking we might need some new recruits. We might have to stage a prison break. Jalal smiled a little at that comment, since Altair and Merity broke him out of prison. A few hours had passed, and Itachi was still sitting on the same spot, listening to the cheers of victory in the background from his guildmates in the other guilds. The sound of footsteps was heard approaching him, yet he didn't even bother to look, and then that someone sat down next to him. You haven't come back for a while. It was Mira Jane, who wrapped her arms gently around Itachi's neck, pulling him into a hug, his head resting on her chest. It's okay, it wasn't your fault. That is not what worries me, Itachi said in a low, broken-like voice. What is it then? Mira gently patted the top of Itachi's head. I don't feel sorry or guilty for killing Ivan. I feel nothing. I killed Master's son, my friend's father, and I feel nothing even though I should. All I feel is what I remember at that moment I killed him. It felt good. Itachi wrapped his arms around Mira, tightening his embrace while trembling. Oh Itachi, Mira kept warmly embracing him. That scratch on your thigh, I did it, didn't I? Itachi reached his hand out and gently touched the scratch on Mira's thigh. Mira didn't know what to say. She could lie, but she knew Itachi would see right through it. I knew it. Itachi took her silence as confirmation to his question. You couldn't help it, you weren't in control. It wasn't your fault, Mira assured, and widened her eyes as she saw drops of tears drip onto the ground, coming from Itachi. I'm scared of what has happened to me, scared of what I might become, scared that I will hurt anyone important to me. Itachi cried into Mira's chest, who kept stroking his head gently. What if I lose control completely? What if I hurt you, Urza, or anyone else from our guild? Despite all his training as a shinobi to kill his emotions, all these years in fairy tale has revived some of those emotions. And now, the thought of losing anyone precious to him ever again, was beyond painful to his heart. And what's even worse, he had come so close to hearing about the origin of his dark power, or at least a hint. The memories of his clone with Atlas Flame had returned and the dragon knew what these marks were, although he never got the chance to tell Itachi what they were. And now that dragon had returned to the past and the information was lost. The only hint he got was that Atlas Flame called them for demon marks, not that it gave him much to go on. You won't, I know you. You won't lose control. It's okay, sweetie, I'm here for you, and I'm not going anywhere. Mira kept stroking his hair while warmly embracing him, while Itachi kept crying into her chest. One thing became obvious to Itachi now though, if he is to make sure he won't lose control, he needs to master that power bit by bit no matter what it takes. Thanks for watching. The next part will be out soon.